Welcome back, everybody. We are diving deep today into the world of anti-cancer living.
Sounds intense.
It's really fascinating stuff. We're going to be taking a look at this YouTube video all about it.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that one. It features Dr. David Servan-Schreiber talking about his own experience with cancer and all the research he's done.
Exactly. That's the one. And you know what struck me? It's how he connects like conventional medicine with everyday lifestyle choices.
Yeah, he bridges that gap really well. It's all about how our habits can help or hurt our body's own defenses.
Totally. And one of the first things that really jumped out at me was this idea that we're all like walking around producing cancer cells all the time.
Right? It's like, whoa, wait a minute, what? That's happening in my body right
I know.
now.
It's kind of freaky when you first hear it.
But the thing is, it's a totally normal process. Our bodies are constantly fighting these cells off. The key is making sure our lifestyles are giving our bodies the best chance to win that fight.
And, thinking about that, it makes sense why cancer rates have just skyrocketed since the 1940s.
It's not just about getting older or better screening either.
Right. Dr. Servan-Schreiber shows this map from the World Health Organization comparing breast cancer rates across the globe.
And the differences are wild. Some areas have way lower rates than others.
It makes you wonder what they're doing differently,
Well, he points out that our lifestyles have changed so much since the 1940s. Diets, exposure to environmental stuff, stress levels, it's all different.
And when it comes to diet, one of the biggest changes is sugar.
Oh, yeah, sugar's a big one. He mentioned that we've gone from eating like 12 pounds of sugar a year back in the 1800s
To 154 pounds today.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It makes you wonder how much sugar is hiding in all the stuff we eat without even realizing it.
It's scary. And he actually highlights a study that found a link between high sugar intake and a doubled risk of breast cancer.
Whoa. So it's not just empty calories. Sugar is straight up fueling cancer cell growth.
That's what the research is showing, so definitely something to be mindful of.
Okay, note to self. Check those food labels more carefully. Another thing I found super interesting were those omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids.
Oh, yeah. He shows those animations of them like little dancers inside our cells.
I know, it's such a cool way to visualize it. So what's the deal with those omegas?
So both types are important for our cells to function, but it's a delicate balance.
I see.
Unfortunately, our modern diets tend to overload us with omega-6s.
Is that because of all the processed foods we eat?
Exactly. And the way livestock is raised these days contributes too.
Interesting. So what happens when we get too many omega-6s?
Well, it can throw off that balance and lead to inflammation and cell growth, which can increase the risk of cancer.
So we need to be careful about the types of fats we eat, not just how much.
You got it.
So what can we do to kind of tip the scales back in our favor?
Well, Dr. Servan-Schreiber lays out 4 key behaviors that can make a big difference.
Lay it on me.
Number 1, don't smoke. Number 2, keep alcohol consumption moderate. Number 3, aim for 5 servings of fruits and veggies every day. And number 4, get at least 30 minutes of walking most days of the week.
Okay, so not smoking and watching the booze. I get that. But 5 servings of fruits and veggies a day. That seems like a lot.
It might sound daunting, but it's doable. He even gives a helpful visual.
Oh!
He compares what he calls a typical American plate, think burger and fries,
Oh, I see where this is going.
to an anti-cancer plate. It's a pretty striking difference.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So what's on this anti-cancer plate?
Lots of colorful veggies, lean proteins, healthy fats, good stuff.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not just about how much we eat, but making sure our plates are filled with the right kinds of foods.
Exactly. It's all about nourishing your body with what it needs to thrive.
So give me some specifics. What are some must-have ingredients for this anti-cancer plate?
Well, Dr. Servan-Schreiber is a big fan of garlic and onions.
Really? I use those all the time, but I never thought of them as anti-cancer superfoods.
Turns out they're more than just flavor enhancers. They're antiviral, antibacterial, help regulate blood sugar, and can even kill cancer cells directly.
No way. Garlic and onions, who knew?
Right. Another great one is turmeric.
Turmeric, like the stuff in curry?
Yep. That bright yellow spice. It's got some powerful anti-inflammatory properties.
Wow, so we've got our spices covered. What about oils?
He recommends cooking with olive oil and canola oil.
Those are good fats, right?
They are. They can help balance out those omega-6s we talked about.
Gotcha. So we've got spices, oils. Now let's talk main course veggies, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. Load up on colorful veggies, especially broccoli and tomatoes. They're packed with antioxidants.
Okay, good to know. And what about protein?
He suggests fish, Particularly smaller fish like sardines, they're rich in those omega-3s.
I actually love sardines. Never thought of them as a cancer fighter, though.
They're a nutritional powerhouse.
Yeah.
And don't forget about lentils.
Oh, I love lentils. They're so versatile.
They're a fantastic source of plant-based protein and fiber.
Okay, so we're covered on the protein front. What about carbs? Are bread and pasta off the table completely?
Not at all. He suggests choosing whole grain varieties and cooking pasta al dente.
Al dente. So
Yeah.
like a little bit firm.
Exactly. That helps prevent blood sugar spikes.
Oh, that makes sense. So it's not just about what we eat, but also how we prepare it.
You got it. It
Yeah.
all plays a role.
This is great information. I feel like I'm learning so much already.
Me too. It's amazing how many simple changes we can make to support our health.
It's not about deprivation either. It's about making choices that nourish our bodies and help us thrive.
Exactly. And speaking of choices, I'm sure you're wondering about the one area that most of us struggle with, dessert.
Don't even get me started. I have such a sweet tooth. Is dessert completely off limits in this anti-cancer lifestyle?
Not necessarily. Dr. Servan-Schreiber actually has some great tips for satisfying those sweet cravings.
Okay, I'm all ears because I need my sugar fix.
First and foremost, he recommends making fruit your primary dessert.
Fruit.
It sounds simple, but fruit is naturally sweet and packed with vitamins and antioxidants.
Because you're right. I often forget how delicious and satisfying fruit can be.
He also shares what he calls the dark chocolate trick.
Okay, this sounds promising.
If you're going to indulge in chocolate, choose dark chocolate with at least 70% cocoa.
So the darker, the better.
Exactly. It has less sugar and more antioxidants. He even has a gourmet fruit and dark chocolate recipe that combines the best of both worlds.
Oh, I need to get my hands on that recipe. So it sounds like we can still enjoy treats while making healthy choices.
Absolutely. It's about finding balance and enjoying what you eat.
But what about genetics? Don't some people have a genetic predisposition to cancer no matter how healthy they live?
That's a common misconception. Dr. Servan-Schreiber points out that only about 15% of cancers have a significant genetic component.
15%. Really? I thought it was much higher.
It's definitely lower than most people think. He even highlights the study of women with the BRCA1 and BRCA2 genes.
Those are the genes linked to breast cancer, right?
Yep. And what's fascinating is that their risk of developing cancer was significantly lower if they ate a lot of vegetables.
So even if you have a family history of cancer, lifestyle choices still matter.
Big time. It's empowering to know we have more control over our health than we often realize.
I'm really starting to see how all these different aspects of our lives are connected.
It's all intertwined. What we eat, how we move, how we manage stress, the people we surround ourselves with, it all contributes to our overall well-being.
This is a lot to take in, but in a good way. I feel like I need a minute to process all this amazing information before we move on.
Same here. It's pretty remarkable how much power we have to influence our health through our everyday choices.
Well, I think we'll pause here for now. We'll be back in a flash to explore even more of Dr. Servan-Schreiber's insights. You know, we've been talking a lot about diet, but there's so much more to this anti-cancer lifestyle.
Yeah, Dr. Servan-Schreiber really emphasizes the importance of physical activity, too.
It's easy to forget how much less we move these days compared to like even just a generation ago.
Totally. Think about when we were kids. I used to walk like miles to and from school every day.
Seriously, we were way more active without even realizing it. So what does Dr. Servan-Schreiber say about the benefits of exercise?
He explains that physical activity, even something as simple as a brisk walk, can help our bodies detoxify and boost our immune system.
So it's not just about hitting the gym, it's about incorporating movement into our daily routines.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be intense or time-consuming. Even short bursts of activity throughout the day can make a difference.
I like the sound of that. Okay, so we've covered diet and exercise, but what about the mental and emotional side of things? Stress is a huge part of modern life. How does that play into the anti-cancer equation?
It's a fascinating connection. Dr. Servan-Schreiber talks about this experiment with rats, where some rats were given electric shocks.
Whoa, hold on. Electric shocks. That's kind of insane.
I know, right? But here's the thing. Some of those rats had a lever they could press to stop the shocks.
Okay, so they had some control over the situation.
Exactly. While the other rats received the same shocks but had no way to stop them.
So they were completely powerless.
Yeah.
I can only imagine how stressed out they were.
Well, the results were pretty amazing. The rats that had the lever to control the shocks, even though they still experienced stress, were way less likely to develop tumors.
Wow, so it's not just about avoiding stress altogether. It's about our perception of control.
Exactly. It's about how we cope with stress. Dr. Servan-Schreiber emphasizes that we can't always eliminate stress, but we can learn to manage it more effectively.
What are some of the strategies he suggests?
Well, he talks about things like mindfulness, relaxation techniques, and spending time in nature. All of these can help regulate our stress response.
Those sound like great ideas.
Hmm.
And, it's not just about our own individual efforts. There's also the power of social connection.
Oh, absolutely. He tells this really heartwarming story about a patient named Mitch who was going through cancer treatment. Her husband gave her this card that said, "I'm with you," and she carried it with her throughout her whole journey.
Oh, that's so sweet. It's amazing how such a simple gesture can make such a big difference.
It really shows the impact of human connection and support. Dr. Servan-Schreiber actually highlights a study that found that women with just one or two close friends had a 4 times greater survival rate compared to women who were more isolated.
Wow, 4 times. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So having a strong social network is literally a lifesaver.
It can be. And it goes beyond just cancer. Social connections are crucial for our overall well-being.
It's like all these pieces fit together. What we eat, how we move, how we manage stress, the people we surround ourselves with, it all contributes to our health.
It's a holistic approach, recognizing that our bodies and minds are interconnected. We can't just focus on one aspect and ignore the others.
And it's so empowering to realize that we have more control over our health than we often think.
I agree. Dr. Servan-Schreiber's message is really about taking an active role in our well-being.
He doesn't just give us a list of rules to follow. He encourages us to become active participants in our own health journey.
And he emphasizes that even in the face of a difficult diagnosis, we can still find meaning and purpose.
I love that perspective. So tell me more about this idea of finding meaning. How does that play into the anti-cancer lifestyle?
Well, he shares a story about a patient named Joe, a biker, who was told he didn't have long to live.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. I can't imagine what he must have been going through.
At first, he felt lost and hopeless. But Dr. Servan-Schreiber encouraged him to find a way to use his skills to help others. Joe ended up volunteering to install an air conditioning system at a local church.
What a beautiful way to turn a difficult situation into an opportunity to serve others.
Exactly. And through that act of service, Joe found a sense of fulfillment and meaning that transformed his final days. It's a powerful reminder that even when facing challenges, we still have the ability to choose how we respond and find ways to make a positive impact.
That's such an important message. It's about reclaiming our power, even in the face of adversity.
Absolutely. And that's what Dr. Servan-Schreiber calls true hope. It's not a passive hope based on wishful thinking. It's a hope that comes from knowledge, action, and a deep commitment to living a life that is both fulfilling and purposeful.
I love that true hope. It's about taking ownership of our lives and making choices that align with our values and goals.
And it's about recognizing that even small actions can have a ripple effect. Like Joe installing that air conditioner. It might seem like a small thing, but it brought him joy and purpose, and it made a difference in the lives of others.
It's a beautiful reminder that we all have the power to make a difference, no matter what our circumstances may be.
And that's a message that resonates far beyond the realm of cancer. It's about living a life that is full of meaning, purpose, and connection.
It's really inspiring to think about how even small changes can have a big impact, not just on our own health, but on the world around us.
Absolutely. It's like a ripple effect.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Dr. Servan-Schreiber's work, what's resonating with you? What's something you could actually implement in your own life?
Good question. I think for me, it's the emphasis on small, consistent changes.
Yeah, I get that. It's easy to feel overwhelmed when you think about making like a huge lifestyle overhaul.
Exactly. But Dr. Servan-Schreiber reminds us that even those little things, like choosing water over soda or adding turmeric to your meals, can really add up over time.
It's like that saying, little by little, a little becomes a lot.
Exactly. It's about those healthy habits that become second nature,
Right.
not willpower or crazy restrictions that are hard to keep up.
I think that's what I like most about his approach. It's not about feeling guilty or deprived. It's about finding a way of life that nourishes you on every level.
Totally. And remember, he even talks about finding joy in the process, like that whole thing about experimenting with gourmet fruit and dark chocolate dessert.
Oh, yeah. I loved that part. It's like, who wouldn't want to try that?
Right. It's about being creative and finding delicious, healthy ways to satisfy those cravings.
It's not about denying yourself. It's
Yeah.
about finding balance.
Exactly. And it goes beyond food, too. It's about movement, stress management, connecting with people, all those things that contribute to a well-rounded, healthy life.
One thing I find really powerful about Dr. Servan-Schreiber's message is this idea of personal agency.
Oh, yeah. What do you mean by that?
Well, even when facing a cancer diagnosis, you're not a passive victim. You have choices.
Oh,
You can take action to support your body and live intentionally.
right. It's about taking back control.
Exactly. So we've talked a lot about the anti-cancer lifestyle, but it makes me wonder, could we apply these principles to other areas of our lives too? Could we create like an anti-disease lifestyle?
That's a really interesting question. I mean, it makes sense, right? Many of the principles Dr. Servan-Schreiber talks about, whole foods, stress management, staying active, nurturing those social connections, those are all beneficial for overall health.
It's not just about preventing cancer. It's about creating a way of life that helps us thrive no matter what challenges come our way.
I love that. It's like
Yeah.
shifting from an anti-cancer mindset to a pro-life mindset.
Exactly. It's about embracing that true hope that comes from knowledge, action, and living a life that's full of purpose and meaning.
Beautifully said. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive.
We have. But the conversation doesn't have to end here. We encourage everyone listening to keep exploring, keep learning, and keep making choices that nourish life in your body and in the world.
And if you're hungry for more, definitely check out Dr. Servan-Schreiber's book, Anti-Cancer, A New Way of Life. It's full of even more insights and practical tips.
It's a great resource for anyone who wants to take charge of their health and well-being. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.